It doesn't matter if you sculpt using Zbrush, Blender, Mudbox or Microsoft Word. In this video, you're going to learn how to sculpt sexy lips. Now, in case there is any doubt, one of those apps was clearly a joke because of course nobody sculpts with Mudbox. Now, in this video I've broken down sculpting the lips into 8 basic steps, and notice that if you hover over the timeline you can easily jump back to a specific step if you need it repeating. Now, I know what you're thinking, wouldn't it be nice if we just had a brush that made sexy lips in one brush stroke? Well, I've got news for you. I've made one. Linked in the description below is a brush pack containing 6 different lips, 4 female lips and 2 male lips, and each set includes closed and slightly open variations. All you need to do is load in the brush, pick a set of lips from the menu at the top and draw them on your character. It's so easy. Now, I originally planned to get this video out for Black Friday so you could grab the brush at 40% off, but something came up and I didn't manage to get it finished on time. So instead what I'm going to do is give the first 30 sales that use the code TOP30 at checkout will get this brush for half price, so make sure you get over there now before they all go. Now, while this brush will save you a lot of time and can help you understand lips better, you are going to want to tweak the result to your character. So I wouldn't say it's a complete replacement for learning how to make them from scratch, so make sure you stick around for the tutorial, which we'll get into now. Before we even think about starting the lips, we want to make sure the surface we're sculpting on isn't flat, because if you look at the skull, the teeth curve round both horizontally and vertically. So just make sure you have this curvature on your model before you start. And it's okay if it's not the perfect shape, because we can tweak this as we go along. Just try and get used to the idea that the lips aren't flat, because this is a common beginner mistake. The next step in creating the lips is to find the corners, and a common practice is to line these up with the centre of the eyes, but on a stylised character this doesn't always work. So what can we do instead? Now, the way I approach it is by trying to imagine where the nasolabial fold would go, which is the crease that runs from your nose down by the side of your mouth. Now, we can make marks like this using Damn Standard in Zbrush or Draw Sharp in Blender. Another common beginner mistake is to put the corners of the mouth right on this fold, but they actually sit a little inside like this. But before I commit to this, let's undo that crease first, and again use Damn Standard to mark out the corners of the lips. This is fine for now, but we'll revisit the corners later. Now we're going to join these corners with a centerline, but instead of using a straight line like this, we can make it look a bit more appealing by adding a little wave instead. We're going down, up, down, then back up again in a nice fluid motion. If your hand is a bit wobbly like mine, you can turn on lazy mouse by coming to stroke, lazy mouse, and just make sure lazy mouse is turned on and lazy smooth is turned up. So again, down, up, and you don't really need to finish the other side because symmetry takes care of that for you. And don't feel committed to this stroke, by the way. Feel free to move stuff around with the move brush in Zbrush or the grab brush in Blender. I find that if I position this line as though it's an anime style mouth and I can get it to look okay, then it's in a good position to start adding the lips. For the top lip, we're going to ignore the cupid's bow for now and just add another wave. The wave starts in the corner like our centre line but arcs up higher. Notice that this time, instead of curving in, I held Alt to pull the geometry out instead, and this is because the top lip is a downward facing plane. What this means is that the top of the top lip is further forward than the bottom of the top lip. So if we check our mark from the side, we can see that the top of this lip is indeed further forward than the bottom, and all we have to do is create a smooth transition between the two. But we have a slight problem because we want this lip to tuck into the corner, and after making this stroke we can see it's now sticking right out. So I'll undo that, and this time I'll start the stroke very lightly and then press down harder as I go. Much smoother. Now, as I say, we need to make a nice transition from top to bottom, so using clay build-up in Zbrush or clay strips in Blender, I'll start very gently laying on some clay. If you take your time here, it's actually quite easy. And don't be afraid to use your smooth brush to help. To help tuck the lip into the corner of the mouth, you can hold Alt to push in a little like so. Now doing this can make the sides of the top lip too wide, but we can bring this back by simply curving above the lip like so. Now when you smooth here, make sure you avoid smoothing the lip itself. To start the bottom lip, I'll first make a curved mark underneath, which indicates roughly where the mouth starts transitioning to the chin. The sides of this mark also indicate the transition to two pillars that sit underneath the bottom lip, but more on these later. For now I'll use clear build-up, holding Alt to make the transition to the chin a bit smoother. Looking at the bottom lip from the side, it's a downward facing plane, which is wrong. We need to make it an upward facing plane. However, it's worth noting that the top lip usually sits further forward than the bottom, so it makes more sense to curve the plane in rather than build one out. Again, proceed nice and slowly with this and you'll be fine. Now right now it's starting to look like a bottom lip, but if we check from the side you'll notice the plane is pretty much vertical. At this point I start building the lip up from the bottom, and notice I'm not going all the way to the corners. Although I'm trying to keep this tutorial step by step, remember this is an organic process, so you'll probably want to be tweaking the work we've already done as you go. Don't forget to check it from above and below. Using Dam Standard, holding Alt, I can give the bottom lip a harder edge, but again, notice I'm not going all the way out to the corners. Remember those pillars I mentioned? Well, there's very little we actually need to do from this position. I'll start by very lightly curving the shape, but then build it back up. There's no need to overthink or overwork anything here. Just very lightly tease the geometry into position. Once you're happy with it, you can move on to refining these shapes. Personally, I really like it when the top lip has a really smooth Kim Possible curve to it, but you might like to add a Cupid's bow. This is really easy to do from this position, and we're going to kill two birds with one stone. Get your move brush and scale it to about this size compared to the top lip. Now we're just going to drag down, but we're not dragging from the edge, we're dragging from just below it, because this way not only do you create the Cupid's bow, but you also create this bump in the centre of the lips. To finish, let's carve out this valley above, known as the philtrum. You might want to add bumps on either side too, but personally I prefer to play down this effect. What I would normally do though is mask out the bottom lip, and just make sure the top lip is nestled over it like so. Now as we've been working, I'm noticing we're losing the lip of our top lip, so I'll use clear build-up to curve away, and then when I smooth, I'll make sure I avoid smoothing on the lips themselves. Before we start working on the bottom lip, I just want to adjust what we have because they either feel a bit too high or not large enough. That's better. Now, I think the bottom lip is looking okay, but to improve it, we might want to build up the bumps in the centre. Note the word centre, because what you should end up with is a flat plane going out to the corners. But again, make sure the transition is really smooth. We don't want any sharp edges around here. Now, I would say the lips are mostly done at this point. I mean, sure they need refining, but the difficult part is out of the way. However, there is just one more thing worth pointing out before you start painting these, and that's the corners. Now on a person, the corners have a bump because this is where a bunch of muscles meet and overlap, and it looks like a little bean below the surface. To add it to your lips is really simple. Just grab your clear build-up brush and lay a bit on in a bean-like motion like so. You can use this as an opportunity to rein in these corners if you feel they're a bit wide like mine are. This gives the effect of the lips being tucked right into the corners, which is what we want. When you come to smooth it, just smooth out the outer edge like so. Now at this point you're probably going to want to start refining your lips, and by this I mean revisiting some of the previous steps to check that everything is looking as it should. And remember, this is an organic process, so even though I've tried to keep this tutorial as step by step as I can, don't feel you need to follow the process religiously. Sometimes you'll find yourself dropping back a couple of steps to improve previous marks you've made, and that's fine. If you found this tutorial useful, all I ask is that you subscribe if you haven't already, and if you're feeling particularly charitable, that you share this with someone you think might also benefit. And don't forget the brush is available at half price for the first 30 customers using the code TOP30. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.